Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today, we were talking about the movie Prey. Prey is the latest movie in the Predator franchise, the seventh movie overall, if you include the two Alien vs. Predator films. It is about a young Comanche woman in the 1700s who deals with the first predator, I suppose. So, as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I liked the cast. Amber Midthunder played the lead actress, and she was good in the movie overall. I know her from the show Legion. She played one of the two Carries on the show Legion. I thought she was good on that show, so I was excited to see her get a movie where she's the lead. And pretty much most of the actors in this movie are Native American. I believe she is from the Comanche tribe as well as the character. And there's some other actors in here. Dakota Beavers and Michelle Thrush are also Native American actors. There are some French people or some French characters in the film, and I believe the Predator himself is not played by Native American. But yeah, other than that, the entire cast is Native American, and that's always cool to see. I like their culture. I think it's interesting. So I think the overall premise of this is an interesting premise too. Again, seeing the Predator in early kind of pre-colonial, or I guess colonial days, 1700s, before the United States was even its own country, is interesting. And sort of seeing how people who are, this is basically at a time in which her tribe doesn't even really know about guns. I think she finds a gun, she gets a gun, and she's taught how to use one at some point. But this is at a time where they don't even know really about guns or about European technology, much less alien technology. Overall, I thought the story was pretty good. Just very basic, kind of a simple story about a young woman sort of coming of age and learning how to hunt and to be accepted in her tribe. There's just, again, very basic kind of screenplay writing things, setups and payoffs and stuff where, she falls in the mud and you go, okay, well, that'll come up later. And it does. And just very basic stuff like that. But some movies seem to get it wrong. So at least it had a nice cohesive script that made sense. And I like that about it. I like the language. The movie starts with her speaking Comanche, and then she sort of switches over to English. And they kind of go back and forth a little bit. It seems like sometimes she will be speaking Comanche, sometimes she'll be speaking English. I believe when she is speaking English, it's supposed to be Comanche. So there's a scene where the Frenchman kind of comes up and says, like, oh, I speak many languages. And it seems like, why would they both speak English? Well, no, they're both supposed to be speaking Comanche in that scene. So almost like what they did in Hunt for Red October, where it starts out in Russian and then they sort of zoom in and it's in English. And I believe they were kind of going for a vibe like that. It's not exactly the same thing, but it sounds like that was an inspiration for him there. So I thought that was cool. I think the sound design on this in the movie was overall really good. I liked a lot of the music that they used, some of the classic kind of Predator music from the original movie from 1987 and some updated stuff. Overall, pretty good. The movie's got a good length. It's only about an hour and a half, hour 45, I think. So under 2 hours, which is great because I feel like most movies I see are just too long. There's a dog in this that I think was a great actor. I love seeing a good dog actor, and it was a great character. And nothing bad happened to it. I think it got its tail caught in a trap. But other than that, the dog survives. It's okay as far as, right? So yeah, always good. Like to see dogs. There's a bear scene, which you see a little bit of in the trailer. You see the Predator holding it above him. Thought it was a great scene. Very cool, very suspenseful. I was scared for her as she's sort of running from this bear and climbs underneath the beaver dam, and then the Predator lifts up the bear and the blood is dripping down. So you can see, the invisibility shield isn't working because the very cool scene, good stuff. There was also a lion scene before that, a lion that I also thought was pretty cool. Some good stuff there. They do a callback to the "If it bleeds, we can kill it," which was, again, I'm very simple, I'm very basic. As soon as I heard her set it up, I was like, oh, he's gonna say "If it bleeds, we can kill it." Some people might have been bothered by that. Some people might have thought that was annoying, but me, I thought it was cool. I thought it was funny. I was excited. So yeah, and they didn't do it too much. That was really the only call. Well, there's one other one, but that's the only verbal callback that I noticed. I thought the final fight between her and the Predator was pretty cool. Again, I kind of saw it coming. They'd set it up before with, if he loses his mask, that's where he's pointing. It did seem a little bit like, maybe the Predator should have been a little bit more aware because he looks right at it, but what are you gonna do? And they do bring up the Predator 2 pistol. So yeah, the flintlock that she is given by the Frenchman who she helps is the same flintlock that Danny Glover is given in Predator 2. So that was cool. People had talked about that before, that had been mentioned. So yeah, good times. I like Predator 2. It's an underrated movie, I think. As far as what I didn't like about the movie, it is a little slow in parts. There are definitely some parts where, again, they're building up, they're establishing character and stuff. But I did think the first kind of act was maybe a little slow as they're kind of building up and working around. It could have been just a little bit more engaging there, I think. Most of the acting I think was really good. Some of it, there was a couple scenes. There was one in particular with Amber Midthunder, where for whatever reason, just her face and sort of the way she was kind of playing like she was sort of exasperated or offended just seemed very contemporary to me, and not the way that somebody in the 1700s would act. I have no idea how people in the 1700s acted, but just something about her performance to me seemed like a typical kind of the way somebody would act now and not so much then. And there was a couple things with her brother too, Dakota Beaver, who just in the beginning, his performance was, again, not terrible, not bad, just a little off. That being said, I actually, by the end of it, didn't notice so much. So maybe it's just me getting used to it or something. I don't know. The Predator mask in this movie is different than before, which makes sense. The movie takes place, 300 years in the past. So yeah, it makes sense that his tech would be a little bit different, not as high tech, but I just didn't like the look of it overall. And then even though the tech is somewhat smaller, there is also some of it that seems a little bit more advanced. And that's a problem I've had with a lot of prequels that people point out with Star Wars and stuff like that. So yeah, some of it, like the stuff that flies up and shoots around and stuff, maybe not. I could be wrong. I haven't watched the first Predator in a while, but even though some of it seemed more out of date, some of it seemed more advanced. So that was kind of an odd thing to me. There is the makeup I wanted to point out, because you can see in the poster there, Amber Midthunder is wearing the makeup under her eyes, which makes sense, something that Native American tribes did. But it also looks like she's wearing eyeliner, which again, I understand the makeup's there, it gets washed off, some of it remains, but there's also just scenes where it just looks like she's wearing eyeliner. And her mom also kind of looked like she was wearing eyeliner. I understand, people want to look attractive, but to me it seemed like a little bit unrealistic. Again, I understand the darkness in the lower part, but then the upper part, I'm like, well, I don't know. But either way, just something that I noticed. There is the CGI in some of the scenes is not very good, particularly with the animals. In that first scene they have there's this snake that attacks this rat or mouse or something, and then there's a wolf that attacks that. The CGI in that scene wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but I could definitely tell it was fake. There's some other CGI too throughout the movie that's, again, not terrible. I understand it's a made for TV kind of thing, but not quite the level that I'm used to seeing, I think, in movies. There's a lot of off-screen kills and a lot of kind of stuff that's implied off-screen. I don't know if that was done for budgetary reasons or for stylistic reasons. I kind of liked it, but I kind of didn't like it. There's definitely some that I would have preferred. Granted, there are some that they show, so it's not everything. It's not like the Godzilla movie from a few years ago. There's definitely a few scenes where, yeah, it seems like they just camera, cuts right before they show the scene that you would want to see. So maybe it was a stylistic choice. I assume it was more of a budgetary thing. I don't know what the budget was for this. I tried to look it up, and it looked like around 100 million, but I'm not 100% on that. I also was a little confused by the lion, because when they mentioned the lion, my first thought was like, oh, are they talking about the American lion? Because I know there was an American lion that went extinct. I think it was still around in the 1700s. I'm not sure. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. But then I realized, well, maybe they're just talking about a mountain lion, like a cougar or something. And then when you see it, I'm honestly not sure. It looks bigger than a cougar to me, but not as big as the American lion. And then at some point, the dude's carrying it. So, I feel like, he wasn't a particularly big guy, her brother, but I feel like he would probably have trouble even just carrying a mountain lion. They weigh about 200 pounds. That's dead weight that the guy's just dragging from who knows how far, and he had already carried his sister who had fallen from the tree as well. Okay, I don't know. And then there's a scene with the buffalo or the bison where she sees them all skinned. And at first you assume, oh, well, that was the predator. Why did the predator do that? That's weird. But the predator was skinning other animals, so they're getting bigger. It makes sense. But then she finds the cigar, which may or may not have been an Arnold Schwarzenegger reference. I don't know. But she finds the cigar, which leads you to believe, oh, it must have been the European fur traders, the French fur traders who did it. That's not entirely accurate, I don't think. I don't think that's what they were doing at that time, the French fur traders. Of course, the bison did become endangered and almost extinct, but I think it was later on, and that was due to different practices, more like running them in stampedes off of cliffs and stuff. But either way, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate there. Other than that, the movie is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who before this directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. And it was written by, well, the screenplay was written by Patrick Aison. And then the story was by the two of them together. Patrick Aison worked on some TV shows like Kingdom, Jack Ryan, and Treadstone. All TV shows I've heard good things about. I think I watched a couple episodes of Jack Ryan. I thought it was okay. I watched some of Kingdom, or I think I watched the original British Animal Kingdom show. I think it's the same. But yeah, seemed pretty good. It seems like a fairly competent writer. The script made sense. People had mentioned that there was a 2019 fan film called Warrior Predator, which actually took place in the 16th century, but with a Native American girl. This is in the 18th century. But still interesting. I don't know if the studio saw that or not. I assume maybe they did, but it's definitely a different director. So I haven't heard how that guy feels, the guy who made the short. Oh, yeah, they do a little setup for a sequel in the credits where you're watching and then they show the Predator ships kind of flying in or something. So that could be interesting if they want to continue doing more Predators, you know, throughout time. I'm down for that. I'd love to see, you know, a Predator in the 1920s or 60s or, you know, 1800s, Civil War Predators. Why not? Yeah. And I did want to address, I guess, a little bit the idea that the main character in this movie is a woman. This is pretty much the first Predator movie to have a main character that's a woman. And I think, you know, when that happens, sometimes there's allegations of like a Mary Sue or her not really justifying or their character, you know, not. I think with this, they did a pretty good job with it, even though there is some stuff where it's, you know, oh, hey, you're really good at everything. Why, you know, and you can definitely see there's I don't know, an agenda, but there's a sort of story where it seems like, okay, she's a woman who isn't sort of respected or isn't sort of allowed to hunt within her tribe, or they kind of discourage her from doing it. And so the idea that this woman who is sort of not appreciated and not that by the end, she sort of takes down this alien thing that nobody could take down. The greatest hunters in the world couldn't take down. It's a great story arc and it makes sense for her. And they do show her, you know, learning and struggling and failing and practicing and everything else. So I think all of that really helped to justify everything. You know, it did make her some, again, not an issue that I have, something I think other people might. I think in this case, it's well justified and would work. If it were a male character, it's something we wouldn't be talking about. So as far as my score on this one, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think this is a pretty good movie, especially it's on Hulu. So if you have the subscription or you've got a friend's account like I do, you can watch it at home for free, you know. And yeah, so if you saw the movie, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.